Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Have you ever just been stuck in a rut where you go through your normal and your city or your state where you live, and you just kind of going through the motions, but you want to go someplace else outside of that? You want to experience things, but you don't really have the time in the bank, like vacation time or personal time to be, taking off like that? Okay. I get it, because if you're a regular person like me, that's the dilemma that you face. Regular people, regular job problems, right? We all have them. However, what if I told you that there's a way that you can actually go somewhere else and experience something else outside of your norm where you're from and do it all in one day? I'll introduce you to this concept. Give me a sec. Be right back. All right, so let's talk about this new concept. I call it travel in a day. Travel in a day is pretty much like day trips. However, most people take day trips. When they do, they're only going to like the furthest part out of the state where they live. So it's day tripping because yes, you get to go somewhere else and see something else, but you're still in your state. The kind of day trip I'm talking about is outside of where you live. So basically we're talking going to a whole nother state and seeing all the stuff in a whole nother state. But keep in mind, there are rules to this. They have to be followed or it's just not gonna work for you. So all right, let's talk about the rules. Rule number 1, first, you need a plan, okay? You gotta have a plan. Figure out where you're gonna go and what you're gonna do while you're there. Now, you're not under any itinerary. You don't have to, it's not like being on a timetable with a schedule or anything like that, but you need to have a plan about what you're gonna do, what you're gonna see, and where you're gonna go. It just works better for you if you have a plan. It helps you to get the most out of the time that you have in whatever city that you're in. I'm just saying, it's not gonna work right without a plan. Rule number 2. Rule number 2 is wherever you go, you can't be more than, the flight cannot be more than 2 to 2.5 hours, maybe 2 hours and 50 minutes long. Any flight longer than that, and you find yourself running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to do things with a short window of time versus if you took a shorter flight, you have a longer window of time to do specific things. It works. Let me tell you. Rule number 3. You have to take the first flight out and the very last flight back. So that very first flight out, very last flight back. That gives you an entire day to do everything that you want to do wherever it is you're going. Now, you also may want to include, this is a side note here. When you are arranging your plan of what you want to do for the day, make sure that where you're going, certain things are within walking distance of each other because you don't want to be paying an arm and a leg and cab and Ubers. Now I know some places it's unavoidable. You may have to do a rent-a-car, for the day. You may have to do a rent-a-car for the day. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're going someplace, that doesn't have like mass transit. That's another thing. You may want to have to rely on the mass transit system for wherever it is you're going. So for me, because I stay more so on like the East Coast, type area, I look at everything like up north of me to maybe like the midline. So the furthest down I could go to is like Texas because they're still on the same time that I am. I'm not exactly in the East Coast, but I'm north, put it like that. I'm north. So basically everything I'm doing is I'm going east of where I'm from. I can't do anything west because those flights are extremely long, like 3.5 hours. Like I would love the day trip in Vegas, but I don't think that's gonna work out right. I would love to do day trip in Vegas, day trip in California, but those flights are just like 3.5 hours, 3 and 4 hours, 4 an hour, 4.5 hours. There's no way any of those can be done because of the time, time zone change, and, window constraints on what it is you want to do when you go there. So my first flight of this experiment day trip, because I'm calling it traveling in a day. So experience day trip is going to be in New York. So on Sunday, I'm going to take the first flight out from where I'm going, which will be at like 6 o'clock in the morning, I want to say, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I'll land in New York at a certain time. From that point on, when I get off, it's going to be to hop a Lyft or Uber to my first destination. Now, that, again, you have to have a plan. So I have a list of places that I want to go to or things that I want to see when I get there. I'm excited to see how this is going to work out. Hopefully I can get everything on my list done. I didn't pick out a lot of things. That's another thing. My advice would be don't overload your schedule with stuff because you won't get the full enjoyment out of it. Keep it simple. Choose like 4 or 5 different places that you might want to visit, and they're all going to be tourist attractions. They don't necessarily have to include like restaurants unless you're specifically going to this other place for a particular restaurant, or you're going to a specific place for a certain museum or a certain show, then that's fine. Try to keep all your stuff clustered together, and again, don't pay attention to the time, but don't pay attention to the time. Don't over stress about, I have to keep on schedule, I have to keep on schedule, I have to keep it on schedule. Because I'm not doing a schedule thing. I do have 5 places that I want to go, and while I'm going to try to make all 5, there's not a guarantee that I'm going to do all 5. Also with day tripping, keep in mind, you're going to have to do it more than once. Like, yes, I said I'm going to New York, and I only have 5 places that I want to go see for this trip. There will be several trips, and that's the fun thing about day tripping, or as I call travel in a day. That's the fun thing about travel in a day. You get to experience this, multiple times. You got to be, careful with, again, where you're going and keeping your plan in place, but don't overstress about, what you're going to do, where you're going to go, and keeping a schedule. When you're trying to have fun with stuff, you don't want to be worried about a schedule, but you need to pay attention to how much time you spend in each location, especially if you're trying to, get everything checked off your list. If you're one of those people like me who has to check everything off the list, who has to do everything on the list, or you're just not going to feel right, it's going to be important that, you pay attention to the time, but don't overstress about the time. Also, if you have like fancy restaurants that you want to go to, knowing that you have to, like dinner reservations and stuff like that, you need to be careful with those. You want to change those from don't do dinner, do lunch, and don't hang out, extra long. Don't hang out extra long. Don't eat really heavy meals. Because you gotta make sure you get back to the airport so you can go through TSA. The cool thing about these trips, though, is that there are no luggage requirements. It's a backpack and a water bottle. Well, and a wallet. Go figure. A backpack, a water bottle, and a wallet. You don't really need anything else. Maybe a charger for your cell phone and your camera, but that's all you're gonna need to experience travel in a day. My next stop, I'm not quite sure where I'm going after that, but if you keep watching this series on the channel, you'll figure it out. So first stop up, New York City. I'll take you guys along with me and let you see everything that I'm seeing and experience everything that I'm experiencing. I don't have any fancy restaurants on the list this go around, nor do I have any Broadway shows. I think those are more geared towards the overnight stays. So like if I'm going to see a Broadway play, then yeah, I'll do an overnight stay in New York. Now to visit a fancy restaurant there, you can do that in a day. I just have to move it from, dinner to lunch. I can have lunch at this restaurant that I want to go to. At any rate, because I'm getting totally off topic. So again, traveling in a day, like I said, first flight out, last flight back, have yourself a plan. Your flight can't be more than 2 to 2.5 hours, maybe 2 hours and 50 minutes long. And you're going to have to utilize the public transportation systems there, or you're gonna be paying for Lyfts and Ubers. So I'll let you guys know how my first trip went out. So stay tuned for the video. Until next time, bye.